In 1968, the Vietnam War entered its most shocking chapter, the Tet Offensive. To understand its impact, we must first ask, why was the United States in Vietnam at all? During the Cold War, Washington believed in the domino theory. If one nation in Asia fell to communism, others would follow. To stop this, America supported South Vietnam against the North, led by the determined revolutionary, Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh was not just a leader. He was a symbol of resistance. Having fought against French colonial rule, he now turned to unite Vietnam. His government in the North launched the Tet Offensive to prove that no corner of South Vietnam was safe and to spark uprisings against the Southern government. For the North, this was not only a military campaign, but a political message that they would fight until Vietnam was won. The United States came with overwhelming firepower. M41 light tanks, M113 armored personnel carriers, and fleets of jet aircraft brought devastation from the skies. Helicopters like the UH-1 Huey dominated the battlefields, carrying troops and raining rockets on enemy positions. But the North Vietnamese had something different: AK-47 rifles, RPG-7 rocket launchers, mortars, and an intricate guerrilla strategy. They were lightly equipped, yet their weapons were suited to the jungles. They skillfully used the Ho Chi Minh Trail through Laos and Cambodia, a vast supply network hidden beneath the jungle canopy. While American bombs pounded suspected trails, the fighters kept moving. In fact, between 1965 and 1973, the U.S. dropped more than 2.7 million tons of bombs on Cambodia alone, making it one of the most heavily bombed places in world history. Yet the North was not without brutality. In Hue, one of South Vietnam's ancient cities, their forces executed thousands of civilians, officials, teachers, priests, and anyone accused of collaborating with the Americans or South Vietnamese government. This tragedy, known as the Hue Massacre, revealed the darker side of the offensive. But atrocities were not only committed by the North. On March 16, 1968, during the Tet Offensive period, U.S. soldiers carried out the My Lai Massacre in Quang Ngai Province. Believing the village harbored North Vietnamese fighters, American troops instead turned their weapons on civilians. Over the course of a few hours, up to 500 unarmed villagers, including women, children, and the elderly, were raped, beaten, and killed. My Lai became one of the darkest stains on America's conduct in Vietnam, shocking the world when it was revealed and further eroding support for the war. Back home in America, President Lyndon B. Johnson had long reassured the public that victory was near. But when the Tet Offensive erupted, with attacks across over 100 towns and cities, even striking the U.S. Embassy in Saigon, it shattered that illusion. Though American and South Vietnamese forces eventually repelled the offensive, the public saw something different: that the enemy was far stronger, more organized, and more determined than they had been told. The credibility gap between Johnson's words and battlefield reality grew into a chasm. For many Americans, faith in the war and in their leaders began to collapse. The costs were staggering. The United States lost about 4,500 soldiers during the offensive, while South Vietnam's army suffered around 5,000 dead. For the North Vietnamese, the toll was far higher, an estimated 40,000 to 50,000 killed. Civilians caught in the crossfire numbered in the thousands. Militarily, the North lost. They failed to hold territory and suffered devastating casualties. But strategically, they won. The Tet Offensive turned U.S. public opinion against the war. Support for escalation evaporated, and calls for withdrawal grew louder. America, despite its firepower, realized it could not bomb, tank, or shoot its way to victory. In the end, the Tet Offensive of 1968 was a paradox. A battlefield defeat for the North, yet a political victory. It proved the resilience of Ho Chi Minh's cause and the limits of American power. The offensive marked the turning point, the beginning of the end of U.S. involvement in Vietnam.